Holy Gospel according to Luke, the 10th chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
There was an expert of the law who stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must we do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? What do you read there?" And he answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You have given the right answer. Do this, and you will live." But wanting to vindicate himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" And Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him, beat him, took off, leaving him half dead. Now by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came upon him, and when he saw him, he was moved with compassion. And he went to him, and he bandaged up his wounds, treated them with oil and wine, and he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? And he said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said, "Go and do likewise." Now as they went on their way, he entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary, who sat at Jesus' feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, so she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. All right, I'm curious. How many of you have seen one of my I would say my favorite TV show, Ted Lasso, on Apple TV? All right, a handful. It is so good. Let me tell you about Ted Lasso. And unfortunately, in today's world, you need to buy an extra subscription to be able to access these things. It's like, side rant, you get like 12 subscriptions, maybe someone should just bundle them together and call it cable, right? But it is so worth signing up for Apple TV because it is a great show. And what I love about it is it really is a show about kindness. Kindness and love. It's about showing mercy and grace to others. And the characters do this so well as they develop them as the season goes on. Let me give you an example from early in the show. The premise is this. Ted is an American college football coach. And he is hired by Rebecca, who's the owner of AFC Richmond, an English premier football club. Now, if you don't know, football in England, on the other side, actually everywhere but America, is soccer. All right? So this American football coach is hired to be an English premier soccer football coach. He knows nothing about the game at all. And we learn her motivations for hiring him are because she inherited this club from her ex-husband, and she wants to destroy it. She wants the club to lose every game and just burn into the ground to get back at her ex-husband. So she secretly sabotages Ted at every single turn. She leaks stories to the press. She sets him up to lose. She makes his job as hard as possible, trading their star player to another team, just so that he would fail. But every step of the way, Ted shows kindness. When Rebecca finally confesses everything to him, she's expecting him to be angry, to want to seek revenge. But in that moment, Ted doesn't hesitate to forgive her, saying we do crazy things when our hearts get broken. As he forgives her, there's no conditions, there's no grudges. He just simply shows mercy. The moment catches Rebecca off guard because it's not what she expects. She doesn't expect the man that she's been wronging for what we've witnessed for an entire season to just simply offer mercy. In today's gospel reading, the parable of the Good Samaritan, we are caught. In fact, Jesus' earliest audience would have been caught way off guard by this story. Because the person who shows mercy in the Good Samaritan parable is the last person that they expected to be the hero. It isn't the religious leader. It isn't the respected member of the community. But it's the one that, since they were born, they've been taught to hate. A Samaritan. This parable reminds us not only to show mercy and kindness in unexpected ways to unexpected people, but maybe it's also a reminder to prepare us to receive mercy from unexpected places as well. To fully grasp the impact of this parable Jesus tells, we need to go back and understand what it would have been like in Old Testament days. To the days when Israel was divided into two different kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And over time, both of those kingdoms were drifted away from God. Both of them suffered under corrupt rulers, and they were eventually conquered by other powerful nations. The northern kingdom was defeated first by the Assyrians, and some Israelites were taken away as captives, while others still remained in the land. And here's what happened as those Israelites, remained in the land, is other cultures and other people from the Assyrians who took over began starting to mingle in the region. They began to mix in with their foreign cultures, their foreign religions, and then we began to see mixed families, mixed relationships, right? Then those families started to have children. Those children from these mixed Assyrian and Israelite relationships were called Samaritans, right? They were people of mixed Jewish and Gentile heritage. So for generations, the Jews who returned from exile began to see the Samaritans as impure, traitors to their faith and their people. There was a hatred between Samaritans and Israelites that ran deep. It was racial, it was religious, it was political. And if you need proof just how deep the animosity ran, if you were with us and read the text right before this and heard the text on Ash Wednesday, let me recount that scene in the gospel right before this that we read just this past Wednesday. Jesus and his disciples were passing through a Samaritan village, and the people did not welcome them. So James and John reacted in this way. They said, "Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them?" That was their reaction to a Samaritan village. They were ready to burn the whole village to the ground just for being Samaritans and not showing them the hospitality they thought they deserved. That is the level of hatred between these groups that we're talking about. But Jesus in that instance rebukes them. He challenges them to see that Samaritans are not the enemies, but beloved people of God as well. So if we take all that which we know, or what the original audience would know about Samaritans and Israelites, and then understand Jesus' parable better. We return to the parable. A man is beaten and left for dead on the side of the road. A priest walks by, one of the most respected religious leaders, then a Levite, another faithful servant of the temple, and they both pass by. Right? They were the ones who you would have thought would have stopped and helped, because not only were they respected, but it was their job. Then comes the Samaritan. I imagine the Jewish lawyer listening to Jesus telling this story, thinking, "Oh, great, here comes a villain." I can wonder about this lawyer's animosity towards, "Oh, great, a Samaritan. Nothing good's going to happen." But Jesus flips the script. He does the unexpected in this story. Not only does the Samaritan stop, but he goes above and beyond. He tends to the man's wounds. He puts him on his own animal. He takes him to an inn and pays for his care. And Jesus asks the lawyer, who was the neighbor to the man who was beaten? Did you hear the lawyer's answer? The lawyer couldn't even muster up the words to say the Samaritan was. He simply said, and I wonder with a lot of animosity, one who showed him mercy. Admitting that the Samaritan was the good guy in this story. That's how deeply ingrained his bias was. So this parable of being a good Samaritan isn't just something to slap on a hospital to say, let's take care of people. This isn't just a parable to remind us to be kind to others and help others out. This parable is so much deeper than that. It's a challenge to all of us to examine our own prejudices, to break down the walls that divide us and separate us as people. Those walls that we build of hatred and prejudice and injustice. Is to recognize that God can show up for us in the most unlikely of people and places. Let me share a story with you about how I experienced this. I know I've shared this story before, I think the last time I preached on this text, but I couldn't think of a better one. So I'm trusting that some of you haven't heard it, and the rest of you just forgot it. All right? When I was a kid, school was difficult. Right? I was bullied a lot going to school, and there were days when I just didn't want to go. I remember coming home from school some days crying, or days when I just told my mom, I don't want to go today. Right? The kids just make fun of me. I just don't want to go. There's one kid in particular, but it didn't make any better that he lived right around the corner from my house. Right? So we were on the same bus. His name is Andrew. Andrew Radley. So I know this is now on the internet, so Andrew, if you're watching, I forgive you. Andrew, for some reason, just didn't like me, right? And I don't know what it was, but I remember one day, we were on the bus, we were leaving school, and Andrew just came up to me and just started wailing on me, just started beating me. And in my mind, it was, UFC fighting, right? It probably wasn't that bad, right? But I remember the bus driver and the teachers took us out of the bus, and we were brought to the principal's office, and guess who was the one in tears crying in the principal's office? I didn't do anything, but I was dreading, what did I do, right? This is a horrific situation for me. I didn't know why he wanted to beat me up, and we ended up being picked up from school. And that's kind of the reaction I always had when I saw Andrew. It's like, I just want to stay far, far away from him, right? But one day I was riding my bike around my neighborhood. It was a very uncool maroon banana seat bike with high handlebars, right? And it was old, right? I believe it might have been a hand-me-down, right? My bike chain and my wheels were squeaking as I was riding around the neighborhood. Just squeak, 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 squeak. And I rode past Andrew's house, and he was playing out in his front yard, and he said, hey, come here. And to this day, I still don't know why I rode my bike into his driveway, right? As I said, I wanted to avoid him, but something led me to say, what, right? And he went into his garage, he got some WD-40, and he sprayed my gears, and the squeaking stopped. That moment has stuck with me. It has stuck with me because this is the story of the Good Samaritan. I received help from the most unlikely of people. And in that day, in that moment, I think the walls were just a little bit broken down. I don't have a memory of an issue with him after. No words, no explanation, just an unexpected kindness from the last person I expected it from. Jesus didn't tell us this parable of the Good Samaritan just simply to remind us and say, be kind to others. Yes, that's part of it. He told us this parable so that those who first heard it and the generations after can say we need to actively break down the walls that we build between ourselves and those we hate. To remind us that mercy often comes from the most unexpected people and places. Like Ted forgiving Rebecca who didn't deserve it. Like the Samaritan who did nothing to earn society's title of despised, stopping to help a man who was beaten on the side of the road. Or like a childhood bully offering a helping hand. God's kingdom isn't just about being kind to those we like. It's about tearing down barriers that exist between people in this world. Because when we do that, then we begin to see that heaven and earth can begin to mesh and merge together. We begin to see God's kingdom breaking forth among us. So may you show mercy to those people who need it. But may you also accept mercy when you need it. And may you be open to that mercy being shared with that very person you despise, or receiving that mercy from the most unlikely of people. And may you begin the difficult work, the holy work, of breaking down the walls and the barriers of hatred, that we may, as we do, may begin to see a glimpse of God's kingdom